Let me stay. I don't need a penny. His words changed her forever. Eliza Moore was left alone at a deserted train station, shivering under a gray cloak as the blizzard tore through the plains. She whispered, "Please, don't leave me." Then he appeared, Jack Thornton, a cowboy on a black Mustang, calm and steady. "Ma'am, you'll freeze," he said. Without hesitation, he draped his coat over her and lifted her onto his horse. "Why help me?" she asked. "'Cause someone should have helped me once," he replied softly. At the cabin, firelight and warm tea welcomed them. "Sharing losses," Jack whispered. "I was left too." Finally, he stood guard at the door and told her, "You're safe here." In that moment, hope and warmth found their place in the wild, lonely West. Before the story begins, take a moment to comment on the city where you are watching today. And when the story ends, don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10. Now choose a quiet spot, take a deep breath, and let the whispers of the West draw you into tonight's tale. Outside the wooden cabin, the blizzard still howls through the cracks, blanketing the prairie in white and chilling the air to the bone. The cold wind rustles along the eaves, but inside, the fire crackles warmly, its gentle light reflecting off the wooden walls, creating an almost uncanny sense of safety. Jack Thornton, the quiet cowboy, stepped to the door, his calm eyes watching Eliza Moore shiver in her thin, dew-soaked coat. He took her hand and led her into the cabin, where the scent of burning wood and hot tea filled the air. His hands skillfully stoked the fire and poured tea into a small cup, the warmth spreading through the room, as if to chase away the blizzard outside. Eliza bent over her cup, inhaling the subtle fragrance, feeling warmth and safety begin to seep into her heart. For the first time since being left behind, she felt trust, a sense that in this wild land, there was a hand to protect her, a heart ready to listen. In that moment, the fateful encounter had begun, opening the story of salvation, hope, and love in the harsh West. Part 1. Tragedy at the train station. The blizzard blanketed the entire wilderness, wind howling through the station's lampposts, sending flurries of snow swirling into anyone's face. Eliza Moore stood there alone and shivering, her thin cloak soaked with dew, lips purple, hands clutching the fragile fabric. Everything around her was so silent that all she could hear was the wind lashing against the eaves and the uneasy shuffle of her feet on the hard-packed snow. The train had departed, leaving her alone amid the merciless storm. Every whistle of the train, as it faded from view, seemed to scrape against the loneliness in Eliza's heart. She quietly made her way toward a nearby platform overhang, seeking shelter. Her feet slipped through the thick snow, eyes wide with fear and tension, scanning for any support. The cold wind made her shiver, shoulders trembling with each gust, each breath turning into a white mist that vanished instantly into the frigid air. Eliza recalled the long journey that had brought her here from a distant town, across endless snowy fields, past cold, desolate rest stops, and the wary eyes of villagers. She, a young widow with fragile hands, seemed to have no one on her side. No money, no relatives. And now, in the middle of the blizzard, she felt the full weight of despair. Her heart ached as she realized that the world around her seemed to have turned its back, and that this very moment could determine her fate. She walked along the platform, arms wrapped tightly around herself for warmth. eyes scanning the empty train cars, their windows frozen, no sign of life. The wind roared like a whisper, reminding her that there was no room for weakness in the Wild West. Eliza reached the edge of the platform where the snow lay thickest on the steps and let out a heavy sigh. Loneliness clutched her heart. She felt like a tiny leaf drifting helplessly through an endless storm. Snow fell heavily on her hair cloak and the ground, erasing all traces of her passage. She huddled, searching for shelter beside a lamppost next to an old wooden bench, even stepping onto an abandoned train car, hoping for a fraction of protection from the wind. Each gust made her close her eyes and shiver, feeling the cold seep into her bones. But it wasn't just the physical chill, it was the sensation of being abandoned, forgotten, with nowhere truly safe. In that moment, Eliza closed her eyes, letting herself drift with the wind, listening to the sound of solitude, the wind lashing against the lampposts, snow falling on the hard ground, and her own heart pounding wildly. She felt every fragile beat, every shiver from her aching heart. Fear mixed with self-compassion, a young, fragile girl in the Wild West with no hand to protect her. Glancing around, she realized everything was empty. The train had gone, the station was deserted, and snow covered everything. No one noticed her existence out there. No other lights, no other people. Eliza felt her heart tighten. She wanted to run, yet wanted to scream, but her voice seemed swallowed by the roaring wind. She found temporary refuge in an old platform corner beside a wooden crate where the blizzard barely reached. Hunching over arms wrapped around her chest, she tried to keep warm, but her heart still raced with fear. Amidst the white expanse and the storm, she felt smaller and weaker than ever. Loneliness wrapped around her like a cold mist seeping into every breath and thought. In the midst of despair, Eliza's gaze fell upon the empty rails, looking toward the far end of the station where the train had vanished. A strange feeling arose, both despair and longing. She wondered, would anyone see her out there? Would a hand reach out to rescue her from the cold, the loneliness, and the hopelessness? She trembled, standing silently, heart pounding with the wind's rhythm. Snow fell thick on her shoulders, hair, and face. Yet deep inside, a flicker of hope began to kindle, small, but enough to keep her from completely collapsing in the harsh West. She knew this moment, this blizzard, could change her life if someone appeared. And then through the silent void, the sound of hooves echoed, cutting through the blizzard. Eliza, startled, raising her head, eyes wide, listening to every pounding beat. A figure emerged from the misty snow, a tall, steady presence atop a black horse. His gaze was calm, but penetrated the loneliness she carried. Eliza's heart both feared and hoped. For the first time since being abandoned, she felt she was not entirely forgotten. That moment, amid the whiteout blizzard, the deserted station, and a figure appearing like destiny, marked the beginning of a story of salvation, hope, and love. Shivering, yet filled with trust, Eliza did not know that her life was about to change forever. The blizzard still raged outside, but within her heart, a warm flame had just been lit. Part 2. The Cowboy appears. The blizzard still howled across the endless fields, covering the prairie with a smooth white blanket. Strong gusts of wind blew massive drifts of snow, turning the world into a haze of white. Everything around Eliza Moore remained cold and desolate, yet her heart began to beat faster, as from a distance the sound of hooves rang out steady strong, cutting through the stillness of the storm. Eliza stood shivering at the edge of the platform, overhang eyes squinting against the wind, trying to make out the approaching figure. A tall man appeared, riding a sleek black Mustang, his stride confident as if the blizzard itself could not slow him. A wide-brimmed hat shadowed half his face, a thick leather coat wrapped around his body, and a scarf fluttered in the wind. His calm eyes seemed to pierce through the loneliness and fear reflected in hers. The first sensation that washed over Eliza was surprise mingled with a touch of doubt. Is he a good man? She wondered silently, hands still hugging herself tightly. Yet his steady, composed gaze, one that seemed to understand her fear, kindled a small spark of hope in her heart. Jack Thornton brought his horse to a halt a few steps away, hooves crunching against the hard snow. He said nothing, merely observing her, slowly lowering his gaze toward her eyes, both watchful and gentle. Eliza took a deep breath, striving to remain calm, though her heart raced with every pulse. In that moment, she felt a first sense of reassurance, as though he had arrived at exactly the right time, exactly the right place to ensure she was not entirely alone in the storm. A sharp gust of wind swept past, tossing her hair and cloak, making her shiver violently. Jack did not avert his gaze. He slowly lowered his hand, pulling the edge of his thick coat closer to shield her. The gesture spoke without words. You will not be left alone. In that instant, her anxiety and despair softened, replaced by curiosity and cautious hope for this mysterious man. He guided his horse closer in measured steps, each hoof striking the snow with a firm, commanding sound. The dim light of the blizzard shone through the brim of his hat, revealing eyes deep and calm, yet full of concern. Eliza did not move forward or back. She simply stood, watching his every action. Each hoofbeat sounded like a drum beat, reminding her she still had a chance for salvation. Jack stopped at a safe distance, bending slightly, eyes fixed on Eliza. He inhaled the icy air before speaking, his voice deep, warm, and steady. "Ma'am, you'll freeze." His words rang clearly through the storm, tender, yet unmistakable, making Eliza's heart stir. She looked at him wide-eyed, half frightened, half silently pleading for help. For the first time since being abandoned, she felt she was not entirely powerless. A gentle thread of hope wove through her chest, making her inhale deeply, feeling warmth despite the raging blizzard outside. Another gust tore through, lifting her thin coat and tossing her hair across her face. Jack did not flinch. He dismounted, extending his coat to shield her from the wind. The act was simple, yet powerful, conveying one clear message: you are safe. In that moment, Eliza felt a first sense of reassurance, her heart gradually calming, beginning to trust that the blizzard was no longer entirely fearsome. He advanced slowly, lowering himself just enough to offer his hand, yet keeping a respectful distance. His eyes swept over her, noticing both weakness and resilience, tremors and steadiness amid the storm. Eliza returned his gaze, curiosity mingled with caution, sensing something unusual. This man was unlike anyone she had ever met. He radiated safety, a quiet certainty that she was not alone. The distance between them seemed softened by the blizzard, yet their eyes and emotions connected. A pounding heartbeat, a deep, hopeful breath, and a small flicker of faith emerged that her life could change from this very moment. Eliza shivered, but fear no longer dominated. She took a tentative step toward Jack, eyes wide, hopeful. Jack looked at her once more, nodding slowly, as if to say, "Trust me." Then he stepped closer, ready to lead her from the storm to warmth and safety. Hope and curiosity filled Eliza, her heart beginning to believe that even in the harsh West hands existed to rescue those in need. And so, amid the whiteout and howling wind, the moment became a turning point. Eliza Moore, shivering, but no longer entirely desperate, looked into the calm eyes of Jack Thornton, the mysterious cowboy, who appeared as if by destiny. From here, the story of salvation, hope, and love in the Wild West began to unfold, carrying her from utter loneliness to moments of warmth and trust. Part 3. The Act of Salvation. The blizzard still raged across the snow-white fields, swirling around Eliza Moore, covering her hair and thin, dew-soaked cloak. She shivered legs, nearly numb eyes, teary from the biting cold. Each breath rose in white puffs, merging with the bone-chilling wind. The sense of loneliness, weakness, and helplessness made her feel as if she might collapse in the Wild West, where the storm and the cold were unforgiving adversaries. Jack Thornton, the quiet yet powerful cowboy, stopped his horse in front of her, his deep gaze piercing through the fear in Eliza's heart. He said little simply, dismounting slowly, his strong, warm hands gently resting on her shoulders. A simple gesture, yet overflowing with meaning. He would shelter her, protect her from the harshness of the West. Jack removed his heavy coat and draped it over Eliza's shoulders, a weighty garment, yet imbued with warmth that defied the snow and cold wind. The coat enveloped her trembling frame, transferring heat from his body to hers. Eliza bowed her head, feeling the gentle warmth, her heart slowly calming. For the first time since being abandoned, she felt safe trusting another human being in this unforgiving land. He bent down, lifting her gently off the snowy ground. Each step he took across the white-covered prairie was sure and strong. Eliza clung to him, trembling, but no longer consumed by despair. Her eyes met Jack's, a mixture of surprise and trust, realizing that she was being rescued. In that moment, the blizzard still raged around them, but within Jack's embrace, she felt warmth, trust, and safety, three things she had thought impossible to find in the desolate West. The saddle creaked lightly as Jack placed Eliza upon it, holding her firmly to prevent her from falling while maintaining balance through the fierce storm. His thick leather coat covered her back scarf around her neck, arms encircling her, creating a protective barrier against the biting wind. Eliza felt his protection not just through his body, but through his calm, composed gaze, which conveyed a deep, silent assurance that he would lead her to safety. The sound of hooves struck the hard snow in steady rhythm, a peaceful cadence amidst the chaos of the storm. Each beat reminded Eliza she was no longer alone. Jack said little silently, guiding the horse toward the cabin, eyes fixed on the path ahead, attentive to each step in the snowstorm, ensuring their safety, while keeping her confidence intact. Meanwhile, Eliza began to breathe more evenly, feeling warmth radiating from Jack's coat the horse's back, and his steady hands. Her initial shivers gradually subsided, replaced by a sense of warmth and security. She rested her head on Jack's shoulder, eyes closed in the quiet moment while the blizzard howled outside. A sense of relief spread through her body, stirring her heart, as if for the first time after so many days of isolation, a strong, gentle hand had finally protected her. The dim moonlight filtered through the snow-covered fields, casting light on Jack and Eliza, creating a scene both cold and warmly intimate. Snow swirled around them, settling on her hair coat and the ground, but it no longer seemed frightening. In his arms, each step toward the cabin became a journey of safety where faith and hope could grow. Jack kept watch as they moved, ensuring the path was safe, free of unexpected obstacles. His deep, determined gaze offered both protection and silent reassurance to Eliza. Everything will be all right. You are safe. That trust filled her mind, making her realize that the raging storm outside could not harm her with him by her side. Throughout the journey to the cabin, Eliza looked out at the sparkling snow beneath the moonlight, keeping pace with the steady rhythm of the horse's hooves. Her heartbeat gradually steadied, no longer chaotic as it had been on the shivering platform. For the first time since being abandoned, she felt trust in another human being, warmth and safety spreading throughout her body. Each breath was lighter, and each step toward the cabin carried her further from despair, closer to hope. Jack and Eliza moved across the snow-white fields, the blizzard still howling, yet his arms and thick coat created a private world of warmth and peace. Each step, each glance toward the trembling girl reminded her that even in the Wild West, hands existed to rescue those in need. That moment, Jack lifting Eliza amid the blizzard, guiding her toward the cabin, was not just an act of physical salvation, but also of the spirit. Eliza felt clearly that someone was protecting her, leading her through desolation and loneliness. She began to trust, completely feeling warmth and safety for the first time after days of cold and isolation. Finally, as the wooden cabin emerged through the snowy veil, warm light gleaming amidst the white expanse, Eliza knew she was about to reach true refuge. A sense of warmth, trust, and safety flooded her, spreading through her soul, marking the first step in a journey of healing, hope, and faith in love amid the harsh West. Part 4. The Warm Cabin. The creaking wooden door of the cabin opened, and a wave of warmth immediately enveloped Eliza Moore. The scent of burning wood, steaming tea, and cooking smoke mingled in the small space, creating a sense of comfort she had thought long lost. Outside, the blizzard still howled, but inside the cabin, every sound softened: the crackle of the fire in the hearth, the clink of cups as Jack set down the hot tea on the old wooden table, and the steady breathing of the trembling girl slowly calming. Jack Thornton gently helped Eliza onto a chair, his hand still firmly holding her waist to keep her from falling. He draped a blanket over her shoulders and leaned down to arrange it neatly. His eyes were calm yet gentle, conveying care that words could scarcely express. Eliza lowered her head, inhaling the fragrant steam of the tea, feeling warmth spread into her chest and cold, stiff hands. After hours of shivering and fear, her heart began to soften. Jack poured tea into 2 small cups, setting them before her. The rising steam created a delicate mist that swirled around her face, giving her cheeks a faint glow against the cold outside. They sat together, gazing at each other in the flickering firelight. The small space seemed like an oasis amid the Wild West, where the blizzard was no longer frightening and trust could be reborn. Eliza held her cup, feeling warmth from Jack's hands transfer to hers, a sense of peace spreading through her. She gave a small, tentative smile. For the first time in days, the loneliness began to ease. Jack sipped his tea, eyes still on her, silent but full of understanding. In that moment, words were unnecessary. His presence alone was enough to soothe her heart. Once they settled, Jack began to share his past. His voice was deep, warm, and slow, like whispers by the fire. I too was once left, alone in a desolate land. I know what it feels like to be forgotten, isolated in this world. Eliza listened, eyes wide, the firelight illuminating her face, reflecting her emotion. Jack's story was more than a history. It was a reminder that even in the darkest days, someone cared and was willing to protect. Every word he spoke was gentle and tender, touching the deepest part of Eliza's heart. They shared a simple meal, a few slices of dry bread, some cheese, and hot tea. Not a lavish feast, but amid the blizzard and solitude, it became more precious than any extravagant banquet. Eliza looked at Jack, realizing that his care extended beyond saving her from the storm. It was in every small detail: a cup of hot tea, a warm blanket, a story from the past to remind her she was not alone. Minutes passed. The fire crackled softly, steam from the tea curling around their faces, creating an atmosphere of tenderness and healing. Eliza felt her heart open, the sense of safety spreading with each breath. She knew that even if the world outside remained harsh within this cabin, there was a man who would protect, listen, and share her pain. Jack continued recounting the days he had spent wandering the plains, facing blizzards, wild beasts, and the trials of the West. He emphasized that no matter how harsh life could be, kindness, protection, and love persisted. These were what kept him standing. Eliza looked at him, sensing sincerity, gentleness, and inner strength, a rare combination of power and tender care. She began to share a little about herself, the lonely days before being left at the station. Jack listened without interruption, eyes calm, yet full of empathy. Every small gesture was a silent affirmation. You will not go through this alone. The tiny cabin became warmer than ever, a true refuge, not only for her body, but also for her soul. As minutes passed, Eliza felt her heart lighten, trembling less, and loneliness gradually giving way to trust, warmth, and safety. She understood that the journey of healing began here. Jack had not only rescued her from the blizzard, but also from the profound solitude in her heart. By the flickering fire, amid the cooking smoke and rising tea steam, two strangers, both lonely in the West, found resonance. Jack Thornton and Eliza Moore began building trust and connection where the blizzard outside no longer held power, and their hearts began to warm. That moment marked a milestone, opening the path to gentle days, healing, and hope ahead. The blizzard still howled outside the window, yet within the cabin fire and human care had created their own world. Eliza Moore, for the first time, felt true safety. In the Wild West, she realized that it was not only snow loneliness and cold that existed. There was also warmth, trust, and hope offered by the strong yet gentle hand of Jack Thornton. Part 5. Revealing the Past. The wooden cabin was silent, the flickering fire casting dancing shadows on the walls and floor, moving gently with the rhythm of the flames. Outside, the blizzard still howled, but inside the warmth spread, enveloping two trembling, lonely souls who had just been rescued. Eliza Moore sat in her chair, hands clutching a steaming cup of tea, eyes fixed on the fire, yet her mind wrestled with fear, loneliness, and memories of her painful past. Jack Thornton sat opposite her, calm and deep-eyed, hands resting gently on his knees. His voice, warm and resonant, drifted through the scent of smoke and the crackling fire, creating an intimate, close atmosphere. He did not rush. Instead, he slowly began to share his losses, the pains he had long kept hidden: a broken family, the death of loved ones, long lonely nights on the snowy plains. Eliza, Jack began his voice, low, emphasizing each word. I too was once left alone in this vast West. On a night when the snow fell as thick as today, I stood in the open fields with no one by my side, not knowing where I would go or how I would survive. Eliza listened, eyes wide, watching him intently. Every word Jack spoke was more than a story. It was his heart opening, offering her sincerity and empathy. She sensed the deep pain etched into his soul, but the way he shared it made her feel trust, something she had thought long lost. Jack spoke of his wandering days, facing blizzards, wild animals, and the harsh trials of the West. He emphasized that amid all the hardships, what kept him standing was kindness, honor, and those willing to help when needed. The story was not only of past suffering, but also a lesson in goodness, hope, and empathy. Eliza listened, her emotions swelling. She recalled her own lonely days, long journeys across white snowfields, wary glances from villagers, nights with no one beside her. She realized that although her pain and Jack's were different, the loneliness, abandonment, and longing for a protective hand were the same. Her heart stirred, feeling both compassion for him and a strange, intimate connection. Jack looked at her with gentle eyes, as if to reassure her. I'm not telling you this to sadden you, but to help you understand. No matter how lonely you may feel, there is always a chance to be saved, to find warmth. He lowered his head, sipped his hot tea, and continued recounting the details of his lost family friends who had passed and the pains he had endured alone. Eliza could not hold back her tears. She felt empathy flooding between two lonely hearts. That moment not only moved her, but opened a door in her soul. She was no longer completely alone. She could trust another person and begin to feel the closeness she had longed for. They sat together in silence, listening to the crackling fire, the wind outside the window, and the steady rhythm of each other's breathing. Eliza placed her hand over Jack's, feeling the warmth spread. This small, meaningful gesture conveyed a message to both. We are no longer alone. Jack recounted days of cattle herding, fence mending, facing blizzards and wild animals. He spoke of friends who had crossed his path, difficult decisions made to protect honor and conscience. Eliza listened, feeling her heart heal, understanding that Jack was not only physically strong, but also strong in spirit, ready to protect those who were vulnerable. A strong gust blew past the window. Yet inside the cabin, the space remained warm and tender. Eliza looked at Jack, eyes sparkling with trust, a gentle smile on her lips. She realized that no matter how fierce the blizzard outside, within Jack's arms and the cozy cabin, she had found safety, empathy, and intimacy, feelings she had thought lost for so long. This moment, Jack opening his heart about his past and Eliza, listening, sharing in the emotion, marked a turning point in their relationship. It was not only empathy, but also the foundation for building trust, love, and healing. Every word Jack spoke, every gentle gesture was etched into Eliza's heart, making her feel truly seen, cared for, and most importantly, alive with hope once again. The flickering firelight reflected in their eyes, illuminating faces full of emotion, creating an intimate and profound atmosphere. The blizzard outside no longer seemed frightening, for inside the cabin, humanity and sincerity had transformed the space into a small paradise where two lonely souls found one another. Finally, Eliza placed her hand over Jack's eyes, full of empathy and trust. Jack looked at her, smiling softly, his gaze gentle yet steadfast. That moment was filled with emotion, understanding, and intimacy, opening the path to healing hope and love amid the blizzard of the West. Part 6. Town Conflict. The small saloon in the western town echoed with sparse sounds, the clinking of glasses' footsteps on the worn wooden floor, and the murmur of a few patrons seeking shelter from the blizzard outside. Cold light from oil lamps cast long shadows across the floor, giving the space a mysterious yet tense atmosphere. Gusts of wind through the cracks made the curtains sway, emphasizing the isolation of the place. Eliza Moore, just leaving the cabin with Jack Thornton to gather supplies and explore the town, sensed something unusual in the air. All eyes turned toward them, some with curiosity, some with suspicion. She gripped Jack's hand lightly, her heart still wary after the recent blizzard. Jack seemed to sense it, his gaze sweeping across the room, vigilant yet composed. Suddenly, the saloon door creaked open, and the room fell silent for a moment. Sheriff Doyle entered, tall and imposing, eyes sharp and cold, wearing a simple uniform that exuded authority in every movement. From the moment he stepped inside, he carried the strictness of the law, and the town's prejudices instantly heightening the tension. The sheriff approached, eyes scanning Jack and Eliza before resting on Eliza. "Who are you? Why are you here in the middle of a blizzard?" His voice was cold, suspicious. Each word cut like a blade, causing Eliza's heart to tighten, partly from fear, partly from realizing just how harsh the town's rules and prejudices could be. Jack Thornton stood tall, his gaze calm but resolute, stepping in front of Eliza. His voice was firm yet commanding. "She's my guest. I brought her here safely. No one has the right to harm her." Sheriff Doyle furrowed his brow, muttering something under his breath, then stepped closer, imposing yet cautious. "I have to uphold the law, Jack. No one can disregard the town's rules, not even you." Tension in the saloon rose, cold light casting shadows across each face, reflecting suspicion, challenge, and authority. Patrons fell silent, observing, occasionally whispering among themselves. Eliza stood behind Jack, heart pounding, but for the first time, she no longer felt entirely afraid. Jack's steadfast presence gave her reassurance and hope that she would be protected from the town's rigid rules and prejudices. Sheriff Doyle stepped closer, eyes fixed on Jack as if analyzing every move. "You are not allowed to lead a girl without proper documentation out into the blizzard without reporting to the town," he said, voice rigid and authoritative. Jack responded, deep and firm, yet composed. "I am not ignoring the law, but I will not ignore the life of a woman. She needs safety, and I will protect her." A tense silence filled the saloon, broken only by the crackle of the fireplace and the howling wind outside. Sheriff Doyle stared at Jack, but seemed to recognize the determination in his eyes. An unspoken battle of wills played out where Jack's honor and Eliza's hope were at the center. Eliza stood behind Jack, heart a mix of anxiety and anticipation. She observed the sheriff's cold gaze, realizing the town's strict prejudices and rules. But looking at Jack calm, steadfast, and full of integrity, she felt absolute safety, knowing someone was there to protect her from all harm. Jack subtly shifted to shield Eliza from the sheriff's scrutinizing eyes, lowering his voice to a warm, steady tone. "You'll be fine. Trust me." Eliza bowed her head, pressing her hand into his coat, feeling warmth spread through her cold body. In that moment, the tension around them seemed to ease, softened by Jack's protective presence and unwavering resolve. Sheriff Doyle did not back down, but his gaze mixed caution with respect. He recognized that Jack was not only physically strong, but also upheld his own code of honor and morality. Finally, he nodded quietly, maintaining distance, but continuing to observe. The tension in the saloon gradually diminished, cold light blending with the warm glow of the fireplace, creating a space both tense and hopeful. Eliza exhaled softly, sensing safety radiating from Jack. In her heart, her faith in people was reinforced, and a new hope flickered that amid prejudice and strict rules, kindness, protection, and love could still be found. In that moment, the saloon became a symbol of tension, honor, and hope. Jack stood tall, shielding Eliza from suspicion and prejudice, not with violence, but with calmness and integrity, proving that even in the Wild West, honor and goodness endure and possess the power to change someone's fate. As the unspoken confrontation ended, Eliza looked at Jack with eyes full of trust. She understood that no matter the blizzard outside or the town's harsh prejudices, there was always a steadfast hand and a strong heart ready to protect her. Hope had been kindled, and the gentle firelight reflected on her face, a reminder that the journey of healing and love continued despite all challenges. Part 7. Gentle Climax. The wooden cabin was silent, the flickering fire casting shadows that danced lightly along the old walls. Outside, the blizzard still howled, covering the plains and porch in white. The wind whistling through the window, cracks produced an eerie sound, yet it highlighted the strange peace inside the cabin. Eliza Moore sat wrapped in a warm blanket, clutching a steaming cup of tea, eyes fixed on the window where the storm swept everything away. Jack Thornton stood near the window, gazing into the blizzard, his expression calm yet determined. He turned to Eliza, noticing her wide eyes, part anxious, part curious, and tinged with a hint of trust. In that moment, the cabin seemed entirely separated from the world outside. Every sound of the storm, every cold light from outside faded before Jack's composed presence and Eliza's trembling yet opening heart. He stepped closer to her bending slightly voice, low but warm, carrying the weight of years of solitude and loss. "I was left too." The words rang simple, yet heavy. Eliza blinked, heart-pounding, as if each beat synced with Jack's. In that instant, she felt a deep, overwhelming emotion, recognizing a profound empathy between his pain and her own. She realized that the two of them, seemingly abandoned in the harsh West, were now sharing their losses, understanding one another. Eliza lifted her hand gently, touching Jack's, feeling the warmth and steadiness of his grip. No words were needed. Every emotion was conveyed through their eyes, gestures, and presence. Her heart softened, swelled with emotion, and a profound understanding washed over her. She was finally no longer alone. Jack stepped closer, placing his hand on Eliza's shoulder, gaze gentle, calm, yet protective. She lowered her head, eyes brimming with tears, sensing that his words were not only a confession, but also a promise. No matter how harsh the blizzard or life became, she would always be protected and accompanied. The storm outside still raged, blanketing the world in white, but inside the flickering firelight reflected in their eyes, melting away. Loneliness, fear, and cold. The cabin became a strangely warm space, holding only two hearts in sync, understanding each other completely. This moment was a gentle climax, not a burst of tension, but an explosion of quiet emotion, leaving the audience both breathless and moved. Eliza lifted her head, gazing directly at Jack, eyes filled with empathy and understanding. She smiled softly, a tear rolling down her cheek, not from sorrow, but from a sense of healing, sharing, and trust. Each breath in the cabin matched Jack's, creating a private, vibrant space where love and kindness began to take root. Jack bent down, placing his hand over hers, leaning slightly closer, while maintaining a sense of safety. No further words were necessary. The phrase "I was left to" conveyed everything: loss, pain, empathy, and a promise of protection. She felt a closeness and understanding like never before, warming her heart amid the blizzard and darkness. The ensuing silence became sacred. Only the crackle of the fire, the wind through the window, and their synchronized heartbeats remained. Eliza leaned on Jack's shoulder, warmth spreading through her trust, forming loneliness and fear replaced by comfort and safety. This feeling radiated throughout her, making her realize that at last a sympathetic heart had appeared, and all past suffering was no longer endured alone. Jack's words were not merely a confession, they marked a spiritual turning point for both. They broke down barriers, opening a door for love and trust to flow between them, even amid the harsh west and freezing blizzard. Eliza recognized that through pain and solitude, they had found one another a deep, powerful connection of understanding. In that moment, the cabin became a refuge not only for the body, but also for the soul. The storm outside remained fierce, but inside love and empathy had been ignited. Eliza placed her hand on Jack's shoulder, eyes full of trust and gratitude. Jack looked at her, smiling, gently gaze, soft, yet steadfast, conveying the message, "You are no longer alone, and everything will be all right." Tears mingled with the flickering firelight, the steam from the tea, and their steady breathing, creating a moment both heartbreaking and healing. This was the gentle climax where pain transformed into empathy, loneliness became hope, and two hearts found each other amid the Wild West. From this moment, the story continued to unfold, but inside the cabin, amid firelight and blizzard, two people had discovered trust, empathy, and closeness, laying the foundation for the next steps of love and healing. Part 8. The Decision to Stay. The blizzard still howled outside the cabin, swirling snow around the windows and porch, creating a cold, white landscape. The wind whistled through the cracks, carrying the creaking sounds of the old wooden door. But inside the cabin, everything was different. The flickering firelight reflected on the wooden walls, illuminating Jack Thornton and Eliza Moore, creating a warm, quiet, and safe space. Eliza sat by the fire hands, wrapped around a steaming cup of tea, eyes gazing into the blizzard outside. She could still feel the cold wind slipping through the gaps, but for the first time in days, she felt peace. Her heart, once trembling from fear and loneliness, began to calm, spreading a faint glimmer of hope. Jack stepped to the window, looking out over the white blizzard, his gaze calm yet resolute. He drew a deep breath, then turned back, eyes settling on Eliza. The moment was weighty, not just a choice, but a promise of protection, a decision to change the fate of the young woman left behind in the harsh West. "You'll stay here, through the storm?" Jack said, voice low, warm, and commanding. "I will protect you." Eliza remained silent, heart-racing, eyes wide as she met his gaze. She sensed the determination in his words and gestures, not an imposition, but an invitation, a promise of hope and security. The trembling within her eased, replaced by complete trust. For the first time, she realized she would be cared for, not just for a few hours, but through the hardships ahead. Jack approached the table, gently placing a gun near the door barrel, pointed outside the storm. The act was not only preparation to protect her from physical danger, but also a symbol of absolute protection. Eliza glanced at the gun, then back at Jack, seeing determination and gentleness in his eyes, and her heart began to settle. She knew that no matter how fierce the blizzard or what dangers lay outside, Jack would stand guard and she would be safe. The wind still howled outside, snow continued to swirl, but the cabin had become a warm oasis where her heart no longer trembled. Jack turned back to her voice, low and gentle. "I won't leave, and you have nothing to fear. This is a safe place." Eliza felt every word, every gesture filling her mind with hope. The days of loneliness, fear, and abandonment at the train station, the blizzard, and the town's harsh prejudices seemed pushed aside. Inside the cabin, among the firelight and Jack's warmth, she found a deep peace she had never experienced before. She sat quietly, letting the warmth from the fire and Jack's presence spread through her. For the first time, she no longer trembled, worried, or feared. Her heart quieted, fully aware of Jack's protection. She understood that his decision had not only saved her from the storm outside, but also from the loneliness and despair within. Jack gently poured more tea into Eliza's cup, placing it before her with a tender smile, yet his gaze remained firm. She offered a small, fragile smile in return, feeling the peace spread, mingling with the flickering firelight. This moment became a symbol of trust and hope in the Wild West, where blizzards, cold, and loneliness no longer ruled their hearts. He stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder, gaze gentle yet resolute. "You'll be all right," he said, voice low and warm. "I will protect you through everything, no matter how fierce the storm outside may be." Eliza lowered her head, placing her hand over his, feeling warmth spreading through her. In that moment, all previous fears vanished, replaced by safety and hope. She realized that in the harsh West, there was not only snow and loneliness, but also humanity, protection, and trust in a compassionate heart. The crackling fire, the steam from the tea, and their synchronized breathing created a warm, peaceful space full of hope. The blizzard outside still raged, but inside the cabin, fire and human care dominated, reminding them that all hardships could be overcome with protection and trust. Eliza looked into Jack's eyes, filled with gratitude, trust, and hope. He returned her gaze, smiling softly, eyes gentle yet steadfast, conveying the message that she was no longer alone and that everything ahead would be all right. The cabin had become a refuge not only for the body, but also for the soul, where hope and peace were kindled amid the western blizzard. By the flickering firelight and the warmth of steaming tea, Jack Thornton made his decision Eliza Moore would stay through the storm. This was not only an act of physical protection, but also a gesture of trust, hope, and peace. She felt for the first time in so many days of solitude that she could trust and find comfort in someone who would always protect her. This moment marked an important milestone, opening the way for days of healing, hope, and love to come. The blizzard outside remained fierce, but inside the cabin, amid the firelight warmth and Jack's protection, Eliza knew that everything would be all right, and her heart had finally found the peace she had longed for. Part 9. Healing and Romance. The sun set over the western plains, casting a soft golden light over everything. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the scent of dry grass and the earthy aroma of snowmelt. The sky reflected hues of orange, pink, and purple blending together, like a vibrant painting nature had made just for the two of them standing in the open fields. Eliza Moore stood beside Jack Thornton. Fingers lightly entwined with his feeling warmth spread through her. After days of cold loneliness and trembling, she finally felt peace, a gentle feeling she had never experienced before. The sun dipped lower, light fading, yet her heart glowed with an indescribable warmth. Jack looked at Eliza, eyes calm, yet filled with tenderness. He smiled gently, his gaze sparkling with joy and serenity. You know, sometimes it feels like the pain will never end. But today, seeing you here, healthy and safe, I feel it's all been worth it. Eliza responded softly, voice full of emotion. Jack, thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you. She lowered her head, cheeks flushed, feeling her heart race. In that moment, she realized that Jack's trust, protection, and gentleness had built a bridge, transforming fear into hope and loneliness into a sense of being loved. They walked down a wide, grassy field. The snow mostly melted, leaving soft earth and pale yellow grass. Each step made a gentle crunch beneath their feet in the waning light. Jack held Eliza's hand as they strolled, glancing at her face now, and then the sunset, highlighting her delicate yet resilient features. Eliza shared memories of her childhood, the lonely days after losing loved ones, and the emptiness she had felt at stations across fields and in blizzards. She spoke of fears and worries, but also of small hopes and the little joys she had longed for. Jack listened without interruption, gaze focused every gesture, gentle, reassuring her that she would never be alone. Jack also opened his heart, recounting the days he had wandered, facing blizzards, wild animals, and profound loneliness. He spoke of moments confronting danger, protecting the vulnerable, and enduring personal loss. Eliza listened, eyes shining each word, warming her heart like a gentle breeze, blowing away the lingering chill from her past. They paused atop a small hill, gazing into the distance where the sun had just disappeared beyond the horizon. Sunset light fell on their faces, illuminating every expression. Eliza, soft eyes, bright lips curved in a small smile. Jack, calm, but warm gaze full of protection, care, and love beginning to bloom. Jack slowly reached out, gently brushing Eliza's hair, a small but intimate gesture. Eliza closed her eyes, feeling warmth spread through her, a sense of peace and protection enveloping her completely. In that moment, all past pain, fear, and loneliness melted away, replaced by tenderness, warmth, and the beginnings of love. They continued to talk, sharing dreams and small precious desires they had once yearned for: a home, a peaceful day, a place to find trust and safety. Jack spoke of the cattle and fields he tended. Eliza shared her own dreams, small but meaningful. With each story, the harmony between their hearts grew clearer. As the sun set completely, the light shifting to pale purple, long shadows stretched across the plains. They sat on a blanket, laid out side by side, yet keeping a subtle distance, allowing both privacy and closeness. Eliza leaned lightly against Jack's shoulder, closing her eyes, letting the sense of safety and warmth spread through her. He gently placed his hand over hers. No words needed, yet full of meaning. This was where their hearts met, the beginning of love and healing. Every passing moment, they felt clearly that despite the harsh West, the blizzard's loneliness, and the town's prejudices, a delicate connection had formed between them. A love was budding from shared experiences, empathy, and protection. They smiled softly, conversed through glances and subtle gestures, sensing that hearts once lonely had finally found a haven. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the scent of dry grass and damp earth, blending with the fading sunset. Eliza and Jack held hands, gazing into the distance, feeling each other's breath, while tenderness, peace, and love spread through their souls. This moment was not only romantic, it was a profound healing, where they learned to trust, open their hearts in love. As sunset ended and darkness fell, they rose and walked back toward the cabin, the warm firelight glowing through the night. With each step, they felt the growing bond, blossoming love and trust in a peaceful future. The gentle warmth of the sunset, the lingering heat, the protection and empathy between them became the foundation for enduring love in the Wild West, amidst blizzards and challenges. In this moment, on the empty western plains, with the soft sunset and whispering winds, Jack Thornton and Eliza Moore began their journey, a journey of healing love and hope, where all past pain became history, making way for tenderness, love, and the peace they had longed for. Part 10. Open Ending. The western plains stretched out before Jack Thornton and Eliza Moore, bathed in the soft light of the final sunset after the blizzard. The space was quiet, only the gentle breeze rustling through the pale yellow grass, creating a soothing melody, like a calm song after days of storms and loneliness. Snow remained scattered across the fields, reflecting the light and appearing soft and pure, like a natural blanket laid out before them. They stood side by side, hands intertwined, feeling warmth radiate between them. Jack placed his hand on Eliza's shoulder, calm yet gentle, gazing toward the horizon, where the sky shifted from orange and pink to pale violet. The sunset light reflected on their faces, highlighting faint smiles and eyes filled with peace and happiness. Loneliness, fear, and sorrow had faded, replaced by trust and hope. Eliza took a deep breath, sensing the soft breeze, the earthy scent of thawing snow, and the aroma of dry grass. She turned to Jack, eyes shimmering with sunset light, and smiled softly. "Jack, thank you. Because of you, I realize I am no longer alone and everything can still be good." Her voice was warm, carrying relief and joy. Jack squeezed her hand gently, eyes soft but resolute. "Eliza, no one can hurt you while I'm here. The blizzards, the challenges, whatever comes, we will face it together." His deep, warm words were not only a promise of physical protection, but also a spiritual vow, conveying that the future would be bright and safe. They walked slowly across the meadow, each step crunching lightly on the melting snow, moving in rhythm with the peaceful surroundings. Every gesture, every glance between them was gentle and intimate, a reminder that they had found each other amid the harsh West. Eliza's heart was full of openness and hope, a sense that she could begin a new life where love, kindness, and trust took precedence. They stopped atop a small hill, gazing toward the horizon where the sun sank behind distant mountains. The final sunset bathed their faces in light, creating a scene both romantic and serene. Eliza leaned against Jack's shoulder, feeling warmth, spreading a sense of protection, love, and care. All previous fear and tension seemed to vanish, completely replaced by deep peace. Jack looked into her eyes, smiling softly, yet full of feeling. "We have weathered the blizzard, endured loneliness, and now it's just us and the future." He bent slightly, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead, a gesture intimate and tender, filled with affection. Eliza closed her eyes, feeling warmth and calm, knowing this moment would remain etched in her heart forever. They continued walking, hand in hand, following the path to the cabin, the warm firelight flickering in the darkness. Each step carried hope. Each breath harmonized with the sounds of nature, a reminder that no matter how harsh the West or how fierce the blizzard returned, they had found peace and love. The cabin and quiet fields appeared before them, both real and dreamlike, like a perfect Western painting. Soft snow, warm firelight, pale yellow grass, and a violet sky. Jack opened the cabin door, guiding Eliza inside, eyes still on her protective and gentle, making her clearly feel that a home had been formed, a place where she would always be safe. Eliza stepped into the cabin, taking in the peaceful surroundings, warm blankets, the flickering fire, and steaming tea. She turned to Jack, smiling eyes glistening with happiness. Jack nodded gently, eyes full of love and determination. In that moment, peace, openness, and hope for the future filled the cabin, embedding itself in their hearts. They sat together by the window, gazing out at the distant fields and horizon, where the last light of sunset faded. The blizzard had passed, leaving a quiet, gentle space where all past suffering receded, making way for tenderness, love, and trust. Jack placed a hand on Eliza's shoulder, gently squeezing, and she rested her head against him, feeling warmth spread. Two people once lonely now stood together, open, empathetic, and ready to face any challenge ahead. This moment was a silent affirmation the blizzard may return, but love, kindness, and hope would always endure. They sat quietly in the dim glow of sunset, savoring the peace, happiness, and serenity. Their hearts beat together, sensing the healing after loss, loneliness, and the trials of the West. This was a moment that opened the future full of hope, where love and trust would be firmly built, ready for all the days ahead. Before them stretched the tranquil plains. Behind them, the warm cabin. Jack and Eliza looked toward the horizon, hand in hand, hearts filled with peace, openness, and hope. All loneliness, fear, and loss were now in the past. The future, with all its tenderness, love, and trust, awaited them. The light of sunset gradually gave way to gentle darkness, but the cabin remained warm, and the fields remained quiet. This was an open ending, not closing the story, but opening a new chapter, a chapter of love, healing, and hope. Standing together, Jack and Eliza were living proof that in the Wild West, kindness, love, and trust could flourish strong and enduring. Peace and hope. The wooden cabin glowed with light, warm, golden hues spilling through the window cracks, reflecting on the old wooden walls. Outside, the prairie lay quiet under the moonlight, a gentle breeze blowing snowflakes falling slowly like nature itself, whispering blessings over the people within. The space was serene, filled only with the gentle crackle of the fireplace, creating complete warmth and peace. Jack Thornton and Eliza Moore sat together by the fire, their eyes directed toward the horizon where the sunset gave way to the gentle night. A soft, tender smile spread across Eliza's lips, her eyes reflecting joy, serenity, and absolute reassurance. Jack placed his hand on her shoulder, his gaze calm, yet full of protection and empathy, making her feel clearly that she was no longer alone, that a steadfast hand was always there to shield and care for her. In that moment, all tension, fear, and loneliness seemed to melt away. Peace spread throughout the cabin, seeping into every breath and heartbeat. Eliza felt relief, protection, and complete safety, a sensation she had thought long lost in the harsh West. All past suffering, blizzards, and solitude faded, replaced by the warm light of love, kindness, and empathy. The inspirational message was clear. In the harsh West, love and kindness remain the ultimate shelter. A single act of goodness can change a person's life. Jack and Eliza together were living proof that even amid challenges, one could find peace and trust in humanity. At the conclusion of this part, the audience is invited to interact gently. Leave a comment and rate it from 0 to 10. Subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss the next ride. Click here to watch the next Wild West story. This moment of peace, the flickering fire, the gentle wind outside, and the slowly falling snowflakes left Eliza, Jack, and the audience with a sense of calm openness and hope for the future, a perfectly emotional open ending for a Wild West story filled with humanity.